What's up guys, Rob the Awesome here, and today we're going to take a look at the medical medley of medic secondaries that the game has to offer and decide which is the best and which is the worst. Let's go! Before I start, there are some things you should know before watching. These guys will just focus purely on the stats. We also focus on the psychological portion of the weapon as well, and how it affects both the user of the weapon and the victims against it. So keep that in mind while watching. Another thing is that if a weapon isn't listed in this video, then the only reason for that is because it is a reskin of another weapon. End of story. Lastly, I advise people to read the pinned comment at the top of the comment section to understand what these guides are about and what my intentions are when making them. It's important to understand the reasoning for why I do these guides to grasp a bigger picture for past, present, and future best and worst videos. Alright, we good? Here we go. Like always, let's start with the stock Medi Gun. This weapon is the heart and soul of any medic arsenal, a weapon that will boost your teammates back on their feet and confidently push them forward against difficult obstacles. Unlike regular guns, this one has the ability to heal nearby teammates and give them an overheal buff for future head-to-head battles. Overheal can give teammates a boost of additional HP up to a maximum of 150% of their base health. However, overheals decay over time, so make sure to keep an eye on teammates that might need that buff over others. The heal rate in which you can heal teammates depends on the time difference between the last time they were damaged and the present point in time. The more recent the shot, the slower the heals will be, no matter how damaging the shot was. If the patient was damaged less than 10 seconds ago, then the Medi Gun will start healing them at 24 health per second. If the heal target was damaged 10 to 15 seconds ago, the heal rate increases linearly from 24 up to a maximum of 72 health per second. This gives significantly greater heals, enforcing a mechanic that rewards players for falling back and getting more healing, instead of constantly and mindlessly aggressing forward. On top of that, you have the ability to run as fast as any class faster than yourself when healing them, giving you a speed boost to keep up the heals no matter the speed. With all of these fantastic abilities comes a game-changing mechanic that can change the tide of battle with a single push. The more you heal with your Medi Gun, the more you will build up an Ubercharge mirror that grants you and your target invulnerability for 8 seconds when activated. Even if there aren't any teammates available, you can pop the Ubercharge on yourself to get out of sticky situations unscathed. The charge time depends on how much health your heal target has and how often you use your Medi Gun to heal. If the patient is below 143% HP, you will gain 2.5% Uber charge every second, taking 40 seconds to fill up an entire meter. And if the patient is above 143% HP and into overheal territory, you'll gain half the amount you'd regularly get and takes 80 seconds to fill up the entire meter. The last thing to note about the Medi Gun is that you cannot capture any objectives while Ubercharged. Instead, your Uber stalls objectives from being captured and strategically holds off enemy capture until your team arrives. The Medi Gun is your key to fulfilling your role as the team's medic. Knowing your weapon in depth can be the difference between a godlike kill streak and a team full of dead corpses. Medic secondaries can be classified as some of the most situational weapons in the game, and can be difficult to place due to its niche gameplay. There are similarities between each of the healing guns listed, but each one is unique in its own playstyle. For example, some of the Medi Guns can transform a heavy into a one-man army, and others can tackle multiple heals in a short amount of time. The utility, usefulness, counterability, and the powerful Ubercharges that follow are all important factors that can put you one step ahead of the enemy team. Medic is an important role, and with your mighty Medi Gun, you'll be the savior your team needs to succeed. There's a lot more to the Medi Gun than meets the eyes, and can be lengthy to get across all of the details. But for now, we're going to put this weapon right in the middle and go from there. The next shocking contraption on this list is the kritz-krieg. This static healing tool functions exactly like a normal Medi Gun does, but with a few tweaks that will actively become its own weapon in gameplay. Instead of the invulnerability Ubercharge that the stock would give you, the kritz-krieg instead offers an Ubercharge that grants your heal target a 100% critical hit chance, improving the patient's damage by 3 times the normal amount for 8 whole seconds. On top of that, your Ubercharge rate is increased by 25%, making it a whole lot easier to build up the Ubercharge meter without having to waste a whole lot of time. You'll still need to take into account the standard Ubercharge and heal rate times when healing teammates, in order to take full advantage of the extra Ubercharge rate this weapon wields. Although these upsides seem rather nice, there are some hidden downsides on the weapon that people need to understand and account for. For example, even though your heal target will do insane amounts of damage, you are both unfortunately heavily vulnerable to attacks, which can be a huge turnoff strategically if not done correctly. Unlike a normal Ubercharge, popping on yourself does not increase your own damage or give you any form of of invulnerability to escape deadly situations. And as a last piece of information, you can both capture objectives and stall enemy capture when popping an Uber for maximum objective capabilities. Faster Uber charge rate and 3 times the damage for your heal target? Sounds like a dream come true. Who needs to be invincible when you can just mow down everyone before they even get the chance to fire back? That sounds nice on paper, but in actuality, it can be a nightmare. Psychologically, when you pop an Uber with your heal target, you're going neck deep in enemy territory. With 8 seconds of invincibility, no one can take you down. But when you're going in with critical damage and no protection, you have to rely heavily on your heal target to land every shot. Even then, with the high amount of ranged projectiles and fast-paced mobility classes out there, they can just kill you dead in 1 or 2 shots. So in short, you aren't very well protected, and for how an Uber is supposed to be used, it doesn't make the argument easier to swallow. But let's just say you use the kritz-krieg effectively for flanking. It can be a great tool to knock a couple people down and be surprising when a soldier destroys 4 enemies with just 1 rocket. However, there is still one thing holding this weapon back. It's easily counterable against other medi guns. Consider this, if the enemy team has a stock Uber charge ready, your extra damage won't mean anything against invincibility. If the enemy has a vaccinator, which I'll get to later, 1 pop will completely get rid of any critical damage. And if the enemy has a quick fix, which again I'll get to later, you can stall out the Uber with the insane healing speeds that can keep you and your teammates alive for the entirety of the Uber. But wait, what about that extra Uber charge rate? Surely you can get Uber faster than the enemy medic. You can use that to get your Uber fast and pop before they get theirs. Not so much. Taking into account the maximum Uber charge build, the stock takes 40 seconds to build an Uber, whereas the kritz-krieg, with its extra Uber charge rate, takes 32 seconds to achieve. You have an 8-second advantage in play, which realistically isn't a lot of time. Unless you use it right away and actually take out the enemy medic, 8 seconds goes by fast and you'll be at equal Uber charge in no time. And that's just the stock. The other medi guns build Uber charge much faster and, once again, can counter the kritz's Uber no problem. To sum it up, the kritz-krieg is a great tool that can take people by surprise and wipe out your opponents no problem, but it's easy to kill the medic from afar and counter it with other Uber charges available. It's far too situational to get right and easily counterable to boot. The kritz-krieg just doesn't compare to the awesome abilities the stock Uber charge has, and all at the cost of little to no protection. Because of these reasons, this weapon goes below the stock medi gun. Don't get me wrong, the kritz-krieg is a fantastic tool to take the enemy team by surprise and continuously get the high damage out for massive kill chains. But looking at it psychologically and deep into the stats, it shows that it's far too situational to get the outcome that you want. Are you looking for a faster and easier way to heal patients? Well, look no further with the quick fix. This medi gun is your key to healing teammates fast, achieving more Ubers, and so much more. Let's start off with the Uber charge itself. Instead of the invulnerability that the stock gives you, your newfound Uber charge increases healing for both you and your teammate by 300% and grants immunity to movement impairing effects. It's going to feel as if 3 medics were healing you at once with absolutely no restraint, with the added bonus of having knockback, stun, and slowdown immunity from any and all weapons that inflict those debuffs. And yes, even the Pyro's Air Blast. On top of the cool Uber charge, your heal rate is increased by 40%, making health restore insanely fast and keeping your teammates alive a whole lot longer. There's also a 10% increased Uber charge rate on the weapon, a tiny bit less than the kritz-krieg, but still effective in building Ubers super fast in the long run. If you thought that was cool, there's more. When healing blast damage classes, you have the ability to tag along for the ride, following projectile jumps for insane speed and mobility across the map. That's a huge load of upsides, but as we all know, cool upsides come with some degrading downsides. The quick fix takes the maximum overheal you can achieve and reduces it by 50%, only giving heal targets a maximum of 125% of their overall health from the medi gun's healing. Lastly, if you pop your Uber charge, you and your heal target are unable to capture objectives, nor stall enemy capture until the Uber has worn out, making this a very obsolete objective tool in battle. The quick fix is all about the fast heals. Definitely something you want to consider when helping out your team. But is faster heals enough to justify a spot in the top? With a 40% faster heal rate, you shave off 0.4 seconds for every second of normal healing. When you heal for a longer period of time, those extra seconds stack up fast and will save teammates in extremely dangerous situations. The fast heals will definitely help in giving any and all teammates quick heals without wasting any time. But wait, what about that overheal downside? Losing roughly half your overheal is insane. Is it not? Generally, yes, losing a huge chunk of your overheal can be devastating against other, more buffed out classes from enemy medics. However, when you factor how much healing you do in comparison, you actually see that it relatively balances out. Do the math, you heal 40% more than a regular medigun, but only have 50% of the overheal. If each of the medic's heal targets were fully buffed out, you'd be looking at a 10% disadvantage against enemy medics. They might have a life lead, but your extra heal rate will keep the battle close. If both heal targets were evenly matched, the stock's heal target in actuality would end up with 10% health left after finishing you off. That's honestly not that bad. 10% isn't a lot of HP even for a heavy, and with proper aiming and movement, it can be justifiably easy to get ahead and win the fight. So in reality, you don't miss out on much, and the overheal is fine for what the quick fix is able to pull out. Alright, how about the extra uber charge rate? 10%, as we all know, isn't a lot. For anything, really. You only save about 4 seconds against a normal uber charge, which is pretty decent, but isn't that much of an advantage. But it's still an upside nonetheless, getting the edge over stock users. The list of awesome things just keeps piling up, but the last thing left to talk about is the uber charge. It sounds fantastic, but how does it stack up against the other mediguns? Since you heal 300% faster in head-to-head combat, that's like if you didn't take damage for 15 seconds. You instantly get the maximum healing rate you would normally get with a single uber, giving you and your heal target 100 health per second. That's enough time to heal back a headshot, a rocket, a pipe, sentry gun fire, and more. Sure, you are still vulnerable to attacks, but you would need an entire team to stack on top of you in order to dish out damage that goes over the healing rate. And for situations where you are alone, you can pop on yourself for a free getaway tool that enemies just can't seem to take down. The best part? Pyros and knockback weapons can't send you flying and waste uber. Initially, Pyros airblast an uber to thin it out, but with a quick fix, they can't do that whatsoever. You're an unstoppable healing machine, with an uber that's able to take out an entire enemy team. And did I mention that you get this uber 4 seconds faster than the stock uber? I think we found a winner! Because the healing rate balances out with the overheal penalty a majority of the time, with an uber that's just as good, if not better than the stock, and a faster uber charge rate to boot, this weapon goes above the stock medigun. The uber is just too good, countering pyros and other uber charges with ease, and all while giving out fantastic healing. Sure, the overheal might not be the best for buffing out your teammates, but the quick fix will always be there to patch you up in no time flat. The last and certainly most complicated medigun on the list is the vaccinator. This one's a doozy of a weapon. There are a ton of upsides and downsides that are complicated to say the least. Let's first start with the upsides. The medigun has a 67% uber charge build rate, making it insanely fast at building ubers no problem. At least we can understand that this is a good thing, but this is where the weapon gets tricky. While healing teammates, you and your heal target are provided with a constant 10% resistance from the selected damage type. Selected damage type? That's right, by pressing your reload button when the weapon is out, you can cycle through different resistance types that include bullet, projectile, and fire to protect yourself and your teammates from any specific damage. You think this is weird? Wait till you hear about the uber charge. The uber charge is split into 4 separate bars, each divided by 25%, and each bar being its own uber charge. With a fully charged meter, you can have 4 uber stored inside your medigun for any and all circumstances. One uber charge provides a 2.5 second resistance bubble on you and your heal target that blocks 75% of the base damage resistance and nullifies 100% critical damage of the selected type from taking effect. You can pop multiple ubers at a time, using 3 ubers for all 3 of the resistances if you like, and you can even pop a resistance bubble on someone and heal another target, applying multiple bubbles on multiple teammates for extensive team pushes. Crazy stuff right there, and we aren't even finished yet. There are still downsides to this weapon that make things a whole lot more complicated. There is a minus 33% uber charge rate when healing overhealed patients on the weapon, making it super hard to build uber on just one target. However, because you have a 67% uber charge rate in the first place, you're still left with a 34% uber charge rate on overhealed patients, which is still pretty good and still the fastest uber charge building rate amongst the mediguns. On top of that, the overheal build rate is reduced by 66%, making it insanely hard to build overheal on patients that might need the extra health. Lastly, you can capture objectives just fine when an uber is popped, but cannot stall enemy capture with it either, making this an equal trade-off on objective usage. So, in a nutshell, you get this resistance shield that can block a whole ton of enemy attacks. That's pretty cool, but how good is it in actual gameplay? To achieve a full 100% uber charge at the maximum rate, it takes about 24 seconds to fill the meter completely. Basically, one vaccinator uber is a quarter of that number. 6 seconds an uber? Sign me up! Hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. That does sound tempting, but what about the rest of the properties? Your overheal is absolutely terrible with this weapon. You had 8 overheal a second, which is not a good upkeep in battle. Not to mention your overcharge is reduced on overheal target, which can be a factor when trying to keep a major damage class alive. You instead get 9 to 18 seconds between each 25% uber, which is still pretty good, but that realistically rounds out to be about 36 to 72 seconds for a full meter charge. Yikes, when you put it like that, it doesn't sound so hot. You need to focus your efforts on healing damaged players, which is all fine and dandy and certainly what a medic should be doing, but you can't always have a hurt target around and isn't realistic to think there would be one at all times. Darn you, overheal, ruining a perfectly good mechanic. But hold on, there's still the resistance bubble and the uber charge itself. You constantly have a resistance bubble when healing teammates. That's pretty neat. It would be if you didn't have to put in a whole ton of mental effort to do it. Since you'll be playing in the back, it's not always easy to select the right resistance. Fire? Projectiles? Bullets? Which one could it be? Let alone, is it the only one? You only get one resistance type at a time. Multiple different damage types can easily counter the shield in its normal state if they decide to all attack at once. It happens more often than you think, but let's say there's only one type of damage all the time. You get 10% resistance for that damage type when selecting the right one. That sounds neat in theory, but that's just like adding a 10% damage penalty on every weapon, or in other words, an excuse for a downside. You would turn a 100 damage meat shot into 90. Whoop-de-freaking-do. Scout, soldiers, demos, pretty much any class can kill you in standard time. 10% doesn't change much at all. This weapon really isn't looking all that great. The downsides are shining a whole lot more and ruining the good aspects of this weapon. But there is still one last thing to look at, which is the actual uber charge itself. 75% resistance to the selected damage type and 100% critical hit resistance. That's pretty darn great, right? Well, it would be if we didn't look at the uber charge psychologically. Think of all the bad things we've talked about so far. Slow overheal, which leads to slower uber charge build rates, and a piss poor resistance shield when healing. All of these things lead to one flaw: a constant need to pop ubers. If your teammates can't get a good overheal, their health is going to go down fast. The only way to protect them is by popping an uber to save their life. What's the harm in that? You'll get another uber soon enough. If an uber has to make up for the lack of proper medic heals, then that's not good at all. Not to mention, you need to continuously heal the target, leading to overheal and thus slower uber charge times. And the cycle continues. But what if you're a good little medic, restraining yourself from using those ubers and having all 4 ready for a push? The 4 ubers you have, each being 2.5 seconds long, add up to give you a 10-second uber chain. Awesome! But this has all the same problems a kritz-krieg has. You're going deep into enemy territory and you'll be faced with more than one damage type. You can only pop one resistance type. Any other form of damage can just counter you no problem. But hold on a minute, you can just pop 2 resistance types at the same time, right? But that'll take 2 uber charges and reduces the 10 seconds to 7.5, which is less than a normal uber charge, and it only lasts 2.5 seconds before they come crashing down to kill you guys. When you say it like that, it really sounds bad. But let's grasp at straws. Kritz-krieg ubers! Your uber gets rid of 100% critical damage. That's great, right? Give it up. Sure, it can counter crits, but that's hyper situational and any damage type can sneak a crits in between the uber pops if you aren't popping right away, which again takes a lot of mental effort. And expecting to have all 4 charges just isn't realistic in the slightest when fighting an unexpected crits medic. Because the downsides crush the upsides completely, and the mechanics for the vaccinator take too much mental strain and effort for a very small reward, this weapon goes below the kritz-krieg. This has always been an odd weapon ever since it was added into the game. It's hard to balance such an odd medigun that doesn't quite act like the standards. Oh well, perhaps this weapon will get better over time, but with how situational it is right now and for how little you get out of it, it's just not even worth trying to use a lot of the time. And those are the best and worst medic secondary weapons. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you want to see more of these types of informational videos, leave a like and subscribe to let me know. Remember to be awesome, stay awesome, and to have an awesome day. I'm Rob the Awesome, and I'll see you guys later. Ciao for now.
Motherfucker, I'm awesome. No, you're not, dude. Don't lie. I'm awesome. I'm driving around in my mom's ride. I'm awesome. A quarter of my life gone by, and I met all my friends online. Motherfucker, I'm awesome. I will run away from a brawl. I'm awesome. There's no voicemail, nobody calls. I'm awesome. I can't afford to buy 8 balls, and I talk to myself on my Facebook wall. You know my pants said